Welcome to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast, your trusted source for simple strategies to improve your mental and physical fitness. Throughout this podcast, we will discuss how you can manage your mental health by practicing mental fitness, building emotional resilience and curiosity to handle life's challenges. We'll also highlight the crucial link between physical fitness and your overall mental well-being. My name is DJ Ligori, and I want you to realize that you are not alone with this challenge. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and welcome to today's episode.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. My name is DJ Ligori, and we are on episode number 118 today. So welcome to the show. I hope we have all had a fantastic week since our last episode. And I want to give a quick warning to what I'm going to talk about today, because it might be a little uncomfortable to think about this topic, yet I think it's important to think about this topic because I think it ultimately is going to help us live more profoundly with our actual life. And I want to talk a little bit about death, because I had one story that I have been a part of that really helped me value time and ultimately life more because of death. And I want to share that today, and I want to share kind of the lessons and the ideas that I have gotten from it, because this past week I have been listening to a lot of different influencers and entrepreneurs and coaches, and one of the common threads that I see amongst these very highly successful individuals is they talk about how we're all going to die one day. So why not try to create something really valuable with the time that you have now? When I was a sophomore in college, I hadn't seen my uncle for about 6 years up to this point. Growing up, my uncle was a very big part of my life. And let's just say some family challenges and personal challenges within himself kind of pushed him away from our family. And he was a great guy. He was one of those individuals who would give you the shirt off of his back in order to help you with whatever you needed in your life. He would do it. He would help you. And one of the most caring and loving individuals I've ever known in my life. And so as he started to grow a little bit more away from the family, I started to miss him more. And I started to then essentially get used to the fact that maybe he was not going to be a part of my life anymore. So when I was a sophomore in college, I got an email from him on August 30th, which is my birthday. And it was my sophomore year. So I had just basically finished my sophomore two-a-days of football. It was kind of the end of two-a-days. And he emailed me on August 30th, and he told me a story of a huge fish he had caught. And he had a picture of him holding this fish, and he outlined it so beautifully, and it had his tone, it had his language. It lit me up when I read this email, and it was so cool to hear from him and to see how he was doing. And at the end of the email, he apologized. And he apologized for essentially his separation from the family and kind of the things that had happened and led up to that point. And he said that he was going to see me at our a football game, an upcoming football game in about 3 weeks on September 20th. And I was ecstatic. I was ecstatic that I was going to get to see him. I was going to get to kind of rekindle that relationship. And I was going to get to see him at this football game. And so that week of the game, I got a text from my mom on September 19th that said, "Call me." And because of that text, every time she texts me now and it just says, "Call me," I have a habit of labeling that as, oh my God, something bad is going to happen. Yet every other time that she has texted me, "Call me," it's typically something completely fine. So she texted me, "Call me," and I was actually in a class. I remember the class I was in, and I walked out into the hallway and I called her, and she said, "Your father needs to talk to you about something." And my father got on the phone and he informed me that my Uncle Ronnie had passed away that day, that morning. So my uncle passed away a day before I was supposed to see him at the game on September 20th. And it was an interesting feeling that was kind of running through my body. I really didn't know necessarily how to process it. And I accepted it. And I actually ended up walking right back into my class and and finishing out my day, because I remember consistently telling myself in my head, this is what my uncle would want me to do. He would want me to finish the day and get something done with that day. And I remember going home that night, and there was a lot of family there. Everybody was, you can imagine how people feel when somebody passes away. And I remember like sitting in my family room and kind of rereading that email. And it made me really realize that no man is guaranteed tomorrow. And it's actually something that I have tattooed on the inside of my bicep. You can see it if you're watching this podcast. But no man is guaranteed tomorrow. We do not know when our time is up. We do not know the higher plan that God, the universe, whatever you believe in, essentially has for us. And it made me value time, because we do not know how much time we essentially have left. And that story is a story that I tell people when we are afraid of doing things, when we are afraid of how people will judge us based upon what's important to us or how we want to present ourselves to the world. And it's a testament to the idea that none of us are going to make it out of here alive. Someday, we are all going to die. And so if we decide to understand that, we actually decide to live more of our life while we're actually here. We actually decide to enjoy the simple beauties of life. We actually decide to take a little bit more risks and calculated judgments based upon information that we have, because we know that there could be some upside to this endeavor. There could also be some downside, yet that is part of the journey. I want to tell one other story that encapsulates, I think, this really interesting topic of death. And I had a friend of mine who was she was kind of like a caretaker for older individuals. And one of the individuals that she took care of she had grown really close with, and they had developed this really cool relationship. And one day she was going to school. I believe she was in high school when this event had happened to her. And she got a call from the business that she worked for that basically said this person that she had developed a good relationship with, he was not doing well. And today was probably going to be some of his last days. And they thought that it might be good for her to be there because of the relationship that they had developed. And so she ended up going right to, I think it was like a nursing home or something, or maybe like the hospice care type of place, and ended up walking into his room. And she described this to me in great detail. She walked in and she could notice his breathing was getting very slower. It was longer in between breaths. And she just held his hand and kind of talked to him a little bit. And eventually he ended up passing away right in front of her. And as soon as he passed away, he broke out into goosebumps and into chills. And my friend asked the nurses, hey, what's going on? Why is this happening to him? And nobody really knew why. And she then proceeded to tell me, she said, this is what I decided to choose to believe in that moment when I saw him break out in chills. She said, I decided to believe that whatever he was just experiencing after it passed in the physical world was so incredible that it gave him chills. It gave him goosebumps. That whatever he was seeing was that magnificent. That made me think about, who are we to believe or even think that our lives right now aren't even going to be more incredible when we pass away? It's an interesting thing to think about, because down here, and I'm going to say down here just in relative terms, in the physical world, we can create some pretty impressive things in our lives. Yet maybe it's not even close to what heaven is like or what the afterlife is like. Maybe it's not even close. And so I think a lot of our life we live based upon the judgment of others, because we want to be liked. We're tribal species. And when we break away from certain opinions and certain trends, we then are isolated. People then start to project their own insecurities on us because we might be making them feel bad that they aren't doing the same things that we are. And that can be scary. I heard something a couple days ago that was really powerful. And it said, when you're in your 20s, you worry a lot what people think about you. You worry a lot what your image is like on social media. You worry a lot what other people's opinions of you are. Do they like me? Am I accepted? As you grow into your 30s and 40s, you start to lessen that attachment to what other people think of you. You start to think more for yourself. You start to discover what's really important to you and what are you really trying to work towards creating with your life. And then as you get into your 50s and your 60s, you start to realize that nobody was ever actually thinking about you at all. In your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s. And I want you to think about how much you've thought of me in the past month. Because in all honesty, if you're listening to this, I probably really have not thought of you. And I mean that in the most genuine and authentic way to prove a point of how much we actually are not thinking about others and how much we are actually essentially focusing on our own well-being and our own progress. Because at some point, our time is going to end here. And we're going to forget about all of the things that people said to us. We are going to forget about all of the memories. We are going to forget about all the people because at some point, our physical intelligence and our physical awareness and our cognition and everything is essentially going to go away. How many times in the past month have you thought of Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Edison, or Amelia Earhart? Some of the most impressive people the world has ever seen, we don't think about them at all. So when our time is up, we are going to go into that next phase of our life, whatever you believe it is. And it's hard to say this, but we are going to be forgotten. At times, people might think about us, yet it's going to be momentarily. And then they're going to move on to the things that are applying to their lives and the people that they care about. So right now, there is something in your life that you are waiting to do. You are waiting for the right moment or the right person, the right situation. And in all honesty, I'm in that same boat with you. If we continue to wait, we might run out of time. If we continue to wait, we might let other influences and other people dictate where we go or what we believe in or what essentially becomes important to us. So I wanted to just have this podcast today to pay respect to those two stories that I shared and the really valuable lessons that they taught when it comes to how we decide to look at the world, how we decide to be more mentally fit so we can handle others' challenges, or others' opinions and challenges in our lives with more emotional resilience, with continuing to be able to handle failure and moving forward, delaying gratification, and realizing the only way it doesn't work is if I stop. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. I hope you got some value out of this episode. And if you did, I would super appreciate a rating, a review, share it with somebody who might be in a victim mentality and they need to hear this message. Maybe it can help them. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your energy. Have a great week. And we'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. If you received something interesting from today's episode, we would kindly appreciate if you could leave us a rating or a review, or even share this podcast with someone you believe needs to hear its message. The Libraries and Weight Rooms brand is a division of our parent company, Acres of Diamonds, where we are on a mission to end mental suffering through mental fitness. If you would like to learn more about our mission and support this cause, please visit our website at www.youracresofdiamonds.com. Take care, keep leading, and we will talk to you soon.